you know, whatever you rolled.
Yep. Okay, so you went here and you got this.
Right.
And
yeah.
then
So whenever you do these books, it's one of these 4 actions. I chose this one because mostly I wanted to get I wanted to get Jade because that's my power,
but
and I
you
wanted to get
also
the spice because
wanted-
I had that contract.
Okay.
So now I can't come here again unless I spend camels to get a black, and then I could actually spend my Jade to get a bunch of other stuff as well.
Okay.
But otherwise, that space is blocked.
And what was that one over there?
This
that far
okay.
One? Yeah.
This one is you can come here with anything. It does not matter what die you spend. This says, hey, come here and pick a city where you've got a trade house and get 1 or 2. So if I come here, I could get one or both of these and make $3.
Okay. Wow, that's nice.
So this is useless to you because you don't.
I don't know why that's open. All right, testing the audio of the stream. Testing. Okay. Oh, cool. I think. Everything should be good. All right, it's past 1, so go ahead and get started here. So, so like last time, we're going to use Amazon Workspaces. So make sure you log into that. Okay, that should be good. Make sure that's showing up on the video. Okay. All right, so we're going to pick up where we left off last time, looking at some of these projects. Let me know how you guys are feeling about Linux. It takes a little while to get used to, and you're going to be slower in it for a while. So I know everything takes an extra step. So if you need help with it, make sure you have the cheat sheet. You can look things up. And as always, you can ask me for help. With a lot of this stuff, it's fairly complicated to explain through text. So I'm trying to show you as much as I can on the video. And then if you need more help than that, we can set up a Zoom meeting. Just shoot me an email. Okay. So it looks like we made it through flick list 2. Double check that. All right. And so what we ended up with was a site where you could enter in information into a text box. Oh, I guess I gotta wait for the web server to come up first. Okay. If there's anybody in the chat that can hear me, go ahead and just post a message so I can see who's here and to let me know everything's working on your end. Took a little extra time to make sure everything was set up. I got a new camera, I got a new mic, and I crossed my fingers for good internet speed today, so I think that's about as much as I can do for that. All right, and so the other thing was after you guys did your prep work and we went over flick list, so you have code that you can look at. Flick list 1 and 2. That should have given you enough information to complete Web Caesar, which is due when? When did I make that due? Oh, today. Okay, so if you're in the chat and you're listening and you are stuck on Web Caesar, you can ask questions in the chat and I'll go over, whatever issues you're having. Otherwise, you'll need to email me to get that. Let's see how many people turned it in. We'll get a feeling for only one person. I mean, you still have till midnight tonight. Okay. And so don't forget, for this one, you'll need to create a repository on GitHub and then clone down the folder. Then follow the directions. Make your changes to your code, committing, adding, committing, and pushing after each major step. Don't forget to add a comment. And then what you'll be submitting is the URL to your repository so that I can go clone it and test it out on my machine. Okay, so now we're ready to move forward. What I want to look at today is more material. Moving on. Last time we also talked about what Flask does. Okay, I think I forgot to post this picture here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right. So we'll save that. Export as, let's do a JPEG. Actually, we don't want that. And we'll stick that right where we are, which is here. I do have a I just noticed I had some links for internships. I'm going to go ahead and post these. The postings are old, but they're from companies that you might consider. Yeah, that's fine. So these are resources you can use to help you look for a local internship. And these are all companies that I've met with or talked directly to, so they know who I am. All right, so I guess I'll just stick it in here and then someday I'll reorganize it. This is the part of our virtual machine that's really nice, is it does have this graphical user interface, so I don't have to manually I don't even know how I would do it. Okay, without this, honestly. Okay, so we want to put some other diagrams too we'll look at later. So what happens when you click this? Perfect. All right. So you really need to understand this picture and how what's going on, because if you don't understand this, there's no way that you could build a web app using Flask. So other than hello world, right? Because it'll give you that on Replit. Okay. So the other thing is you need to understand this. This is missing a ton of pieces that we're going to add in as we reach them in the class. Okay. There's a lot of things we can fit in between the different parts that make this a lot better. Okay. So that means you guys should take a look at the prep work for section 5. Take a look at flick list 3. We're going to look at flick list 3 and 4 today. And if we have time. But you need to take a look at the prep work. Let's see, for 5, you're going to want to try all of these for sure. So this is perfect timing. You need to understand these topics because they have to do with this diagram that will help you understand. So for example, let's move this over here. Okay. For example, validation, which you guys may have done already in JavaScript or any of the other languages. That's where on the person's computer you can include things like in JavaScript to check whether they put a number in a field for their name or put a name in the field for some value. So it's a that kind of validation is meant to help people not make mistakes, okay? But in this class, we'll also be introduced to server-side validation, which prevents vulnerability. Basically, we're locking up the vulnerabilities. If people can get code to the server, since Flask generates a website and accesses a database to build that website, if people can get code in there, they can get access. And even though, what we're making in this class, the security is a low priority, you understanding how to use security is actually very important, and it's something that you'll have to basically apply to any job that you do where you're doing development. Okay, and then we're going to talk about redirects. I guess the big part of that in terms of the diagram is, let's take a look here. Let's say I try to, I go to bob.com, and then Flask will use the home page because we're not choosing any route, and then we could go to about or contact, but what if we went to something different, like we typed in bob.com/admin or something. Right now that's going to give us a 404, an error, but with redirects what we can do is create a list of routes that the request is checked against, and then if it's not in that list, we can redirect the user to a different route. Okay, so that's what a redirect is. So you'll need to know how to use those. So take a look at the interactive lessons. HTML escaping is kind of another form of validation. So this is something you would have learned in 099. Let me just show you a part here. So if you remember from 099, HTML character codes, I think it was from chapter 2, and the only thing I say about them is how to use them, and I probably mention why, and that's actually just in terms of making the HTML or the browser understand your HTML better. But you can also use these to prevent symbols being entered into as input into your web server, which helps prevent injection attacks, code injection. Okay, so things like curly braces and angle brackets, so the greater than and less than sign. In HTML, you can use these codes, and then when the browser renders it, it will convert it to the appropriate symbol. Okay, so besides those, if you want to include extra spaces, you have to use the character code for that, which is NBSP. You'll notice the ones with named quotes are commonly used. So, you know, double quotes are important in programming, ampersand, single quotes, and so all the ones that have a named code are things that are kind of more important. Okay, so spaces, and then I guess these are used a lot by, you know, you don't have this key on your keyboard, so how do you get it on the web page as a character? You can use the code. All right, so you don't have to memorize this. All you have to do is know how to access it so you can use them if needed. Okay, so if you're taking an input from a text box, there's nothing, by default, there's nothing stopping someone from putting those characters in there. But what you can do is, if you receive those characters, convert them into the appropriate code. Okay. So make sure you take a look at those for class 5. Let's see what's in here. Okay, so what are advantages of client-side validation and server-side? Well, I guess I just talked about that. And then why do you want to do both? Redirecting a user. So when it says how do you want to know the syntax for that. Okay. And then why would you use HTML escaping? So all those topics are covered. You need to know them for the next assignment, which will be creating a web page that allows users to, or a web app that allows users to sign up. All right, for an account. So let's take a look at Flick List 3. So for this one, we're focusing on validation. And then they're talking about doing the validation to help the user input the right information. Okay. So to get this set up, we're going to open the terminal. You may have it open from last time, and you want to navigate to your course folder, and then if you download it, if you cloned the Flick list, you want to go into that folder so that you can see the main.py, etc. Get out your magnifying glass for this, right? Here, let's make it bigger, but also not at the bottom of the screen. Okay. I think I can do it this way. Yeah, there we go. Maybe I should just full screen it. Okay. Hopefully that makes it a lot easier to see. So anyway, we can see that we have switched our branch to Studio 1 before, and we switched it to Studio 2 last time. So for this next one, we're going to start with walk through 3. All right, so we need to switch our branches. So if you remember that command, it is, and you can look at the Git cheat sheet from our class too for this. All right. Should probably clear this. There we go. So if you type clear, it'll bring you back to a clear screen, which is good if you've collected a bunch of messages from the web server that you don't need anymore. Okay, so we got to switch to that branch. Now it's escaping me. Checkout. That's what it is. Remember, checkout allows you to switch branches. So we're going to do git checkout walk through. Whoops, make sure it's typing. Git checkout, and we got to make sure you're in the correct directory or folder. So here it shows you what folder you're in or directory. Okay. So it has to be the one with this local repository. Anyway, walk through 3. Okay, switch to that branch. And if you ever want to know what branches are available, you can type git branch. All right, by default, it doesn't show the other branches that we haven't checked out yet. So we can see after checking out that branch, it didn't add any files or take any files away. But if we look in the code, so probably the easiest way is just to close Visual Studio Code and then do code dot. This means open the current directory with Visual Studio Code. The dot represents the current directory. That will open Visual Studio Code pointed at the directory of your project. So you'll be able to see all the files in Visual Studio Code. Okay. And so here is their version of it's trying to help me. I don't need help right now. Okay. This is their version of the ending point of the last flick list. Okay. And so before we start, the first thing we should do is test it. All right. And so I'm going to keep this. I opened a new tab, so I went to File, Open Tab, and you select the first one so that you can have multiple terminals open in the same window. All right, I'm going to use this first one to type commands. I'm going to use this one to run the web server. And I'll set the title to this one to be, nope, that's not what I want. Okay, anyway. We will, how do you start the web server again? Well, you have to run the Python code in main.py using Python. Using Python, I'm going to run main.py. All right, and then when it gets to the code down here, app.run, that opens the web server and has all the settings and code ready to use. Okay. And then if someone visits the site, so you can control click in the terminal to open web app in the browser, and you'll notice it is the loopback IP, which means you're accessing your own computer's network, and we're using port 5000. Okay, and so here I opened the website in the browser, which required that I communicate to the web server, and then it generated the web page. Okay, generated this page. And here is a log of all the requests that have been accepted by the web server. So this will get clogged up, but it can also be used for debugging. Okay? Or finding out what people are trying to do or how and when. So we don't really do anything else in here. If we want to run commands and create files and stuff, we'll just use this terminal. So let's check out what we can do here first, so we know what we need. So we know what we need to change. So I'm going to add cable guy. It says cable guy has been added to your watch list, and pay attention to the route. So by clicking that button, we're being sent to the add route. Okay. And I just want to look at the the request that the server got. So here, when I click that button, it's programmed to send a post request. So if we look at the code for the add movie form, which is stored in a string up at the top, there is in the form element an action that tells it what route to use, and a method which tells it how it wants the data sent. Okay? Let's try something. This will probably break it. Let's try changing this to get so we can see what the difference is. This might just break it. And so it restarted the server because it detected changes to the file. And if we go back, and remember, if you go back, this is the not the latest version, so you need to refresh the page to pull the updated version. Right now, let's try to add Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. All right, it says the method is not allowed because the route is only programmed to take post requests, and that's because the difference between post and get requests, you can see here, what is this? Okay, before the selection here, oh, I don't even know if you guys can see that. Well, I'll just tell you. So after the route, there's a question mark here. Okay, that tells the browser that these values were submitted or stored and passed on to this page, the add page. And you can see we have a new movie variable with a value of Ace and Ventura, Pet Detective. So we get that value right in the browser here that was entered into the form. So you can imagine there are certain things you don't want to show up here, like a password or username or any kind of information that is supposed to be private. Okay, so a lot of the form data that we're going to be taking is going to use the post method. So I'll change that back. And times when you might use the get method is the only example I can think of right now, and you could probably just Google this and find a bunch of examples, but if you have like a web app that is an ebook maybe with pages, you might want to include in each, pages of the book, and each page of the book is a different web page. You might want to put the page number up in there. I guess you would just make those separate routes. I'll think of a better example later, because we actually do use it for other things later. And then I'll remember. Okay, so there's that. Don't forget to save your changes when you make changes. All right. What else can we do on this page? We can cross things off, so let's make a selection. You'll also notice it's not saving any of the things I'm doing. That's because we're not storing anything on the web server. And so once the connection, well, actually, after you make a request, and you get an answer, your connection to the server is closed. And so when we hit the button, choose an option here and hit cross it off. That value is just passed to the web server and then spit back out to us. And so it's not persistent. To get that, we need to include a database, which we'll do in the next section. Okay. So adding and removing, this is what we added last time, but it's just updated to the way they want it done, which you'll need to use because the exercises go off of the way they did it. So let's go back here. So we got the right branch. Okay, so it says write a function which we can use to fetch the user's current watch list. Okay. Rather than hard-code the movie titles, we will dynamically build the dropdown based on the current list. So when it says list, since we're using Python, remember, in Python you can create a list data type that can contain different values. So we're going to create that and put strings in there that represent names of movies. Okay, so let's go down. I think they have the to-dos in here, maybe not. I guess this part I'm just supposed to do for you, so there's not any to-dos. So, write a function. Is it going to go into these? No. Okay, write a function which we can fetch the user's pretend current watch list. All right, so creating a list in Python. I'll make a little comment up here. Creating a function to return the movie list. Is that what it wanted? Fetch the user's current watch list. Okay, yeah, so we want it to return we want a function that we can call that will just tell us or give us the list of movies, and then wherever that's being called, probably within the route, we can manipulate that list, no matter how big it becomes. So do they have one in here? They don't have a list yet, so let's see. Hopefully they're not mentioning that anywhere. Okay. So let's go, I guess we'll just call it movie list. And since I'm in their file and they're following the naming conventions of Python, which is between words, using underscore, all lowercase for both. I believe that makes it work better with Linux because everything is, it's very similar to what you use in Linux. And Linux is case sensitive on a lot of things, so it's safer if you just use all lowercase. All right, so we'll create our movie list. Okay, so this is how you initialize a list in Python. You just put the square brackets here. This is empty though, so we need to put in some values. All right, for this I'm just going to put in, because we're going to move on and do this again probably, or they already have one. So I'm just going to put some values so we can see if it works. All right. And we saved it so we can check here. It says this file change, reloading. And so if you get to this point, you know it worked. If it doesn't, it'll give you the error, the Python error, so you can go in and fix it. So for example, if I forget this closing curly brace, oh, and I save, I'm sorry, that was a square bracket, it'll give me the error and it won't run the server. So in that case, so I'm imagining that's probably going to happen quite a bit until you get used to this. You fix it, save it, and then you'll have to manually restart the server, but in Linux it keeps track of the commands you called. So if I just go back to the terminal, press up, I don't have to retype the command, and I can restart the server that way. And now it's running, so I fixed the problem. And we can go in and continue on to the next. Oh, we got to finish this task. So I'm going to create the function. So remember, creating a function, keyword define, and we'll call it fetch movie list. Yeah. Takes no arguments. And we want to return movie list. All right. You guys can't see it, but my hand keeps hovering over the semicolon. Okay. We do not need to use semicolons in Python. Okay, so save it. And the web server did not crash, so we're good. And the next step is okay. Rather, we'll dynamically build the dropdown based on the current list. In the process, we'll see a new Python function, string.format method. If you took the Python class, you would have already have seen that. If not, it's not that complicated. So, and then we'll also add validation to Crossoff. Ooh, they're going to do redirects in here. Okay, so sounds like we will need to use this function to pass the information to the route so that it can form the drop-down list out of those values. So in here, in the Crossoff form here, we are building the string ourselves, and so we don't want these options in here anymore. Okay. And what we can do is close this so I don't have to scroll left and right. Oh, they're using double quotes. I was like, why isn't that working? Okay. Turn that into a string, and then we're going to concatenate on all the values as options in the movie list. So concatenate that on there. So look at look at the way I'm doing this. We're taking the form, we're breaking it in half because we're generating part of the form in the middle. And to generate that form, we're going to use the list. Okay, so I feel like I'm missing something. When we get to the studio, we'll see how they did it, but maybe I misinterpreted it. We could just use movie list, but they want us to use this function. So we're going to need a loop to create our options. So we're going to use a for loop. Let's generate those before. Yeah, let's just do it this way. So we'll have Crossoff form 1. I was just thinking about how terrible the layout of the code is going to look and hard to interpret. So we'll call this Crossoff form 2. And we'll just stick those together after. Does this have an auto format? It does, but it didn't seem to do anything here. All right. So we want to generate the options to put in. I'm going to put it between the two here because that's where it's going to be. So we'll say these are the options. We'll call them Crossoff options. Okay. And this is going to equal the opening option tag. Because remember, we just want a string of all the option tags, but we need a loop to generate those to put in the form. So we need an open option tag. Right, how do we want to do this? Oh, right. Okay. Do we want to create a separate list for this? No, we just need to concatenate it together. Okay. So we'll actually just create Crossoff options here, set it as a blank string, and then we'll do for. This is going to be a for loop. This is one of my favorite things about Python, is how easy it is to iterate through a loop. So we're going to say for movie. So we're creating a variable for this for loop called movie to pull the values out of the list. All right, and so we're not going to reference the list directly here. We're going to use this function to grab it. So we need to use this function because it returns a movie list, which will be the list of the movies. So look at the structure of this. It says for movie in fetch movie list. So this will become the list, the Python data type list, and then the for loop will assign the first value of movie to the first item in the list. All right, so what do we want to convert these to? So we want to make, basically we're just building a string. So our Crossoff options is going to have concatenated onto it. Basically each value from the movie list, surrounded by the option opening and closing tags. So we have option plus movie plus closing option tag. And pay attention to which ones are strings and which ones aren't. That's very important. So this will create a string, empty string, and then in here, the reason I had to create this string here is if we, actually I'm not sure, I might be thinking of a different language. Let's see what happens if we don't include the declaring that variable. Yeah, so because we're trying to add it to the original value, it's saying there is no original value, which is good that it's telling us that, because we need to know when things are empty. Okay, so we need to restart the server. Oh, I typed it wrong. Okay, that wasn't a proper test. So let's try commenting this out so it doesn't declare it. Okay, then we'll try running it again. Crossoff options is not defined. Okay, so we do need to declare that. Okay, rerun the server. It's working now. Just checking our code here. Okay. And then since we changed this to Crossoff Form 1, Crossoff Options, and Crossoff Form 2, we'll have to change the output of the home page to use those variables when it's building the page. Okay. Crossoff Form 1. Crossoff Form 2. And between those, I almost forgot, we should put the thing we made, which was Crossoff Options. All right. I'm not sure why this one is mad. All right, sometimes because I hadn't saved it. Okay, and server's still working. Now we can actually test. All right, and there's movie 1, 2, 3. So remember, this is what we were changing. If we add something like it, save it, then when people access the site, so refresh, it will pull that new movie. Okay, so now we have a way to store the movies and manipulate them in a list, which will make communicating with the database later much easier. Okay, so that was the first task. Let's see how much else I did on accident. Let's see. Well, I guess we'll see this string format in the studio. Okay. Validation on Crossoff route. So it says when the user wants to take a movie and cross it off, we need to put validation to make sure that movie's actually on the list so things don't crash when it tries to remove something that doesn't exist. So we want to use a redirect and pass a error message. And then here is where we'll use some validation to escape the error message, because I think the way they do it is they're using the get method. Okay, to pass the basically to pass the value of the movie you tried to cross off to this error on the home page. Okay, and then on the home page, display the error if it exists. So how do we check if the movie is on the user's list when we try to cross it off? Well, that is a good thing to check in the Crossoff route. So when you when you click Crossoff here, it passes the value from here to the server, and then the server uses it to build this page and send that back to you. So we need to add an extra step once it's on the server to make sure that movie is actually in the list, otherwise give an error and put that error on the home page. All right. So in our Crossoff route, inside the function that gets called on this route, we need to check first, before we do any of this, except for getting the value, right? So we'll get the value, store that in Crossoff movie, and then here, what are we going to do? I'm going to type it out so I don't forget. All right, we want to check if the movie is in the list. So how can we do that? Well, again, this is what I like about Python. We can just say if Crossoff movie is in, and then we can just call that function again, fetch movie list, and it's a function, so don't forget your parentheses. So if Crossoff movie is in fetch movie list, we're going to print out the rest of the correct page. Okay. Don't forget to indent after an if statement. Okay. So what is, so, oh, I don't think we need is. My bad. Or maybe we do. Let me double check that. All right. I did know I made that typo, but I knew Google would fix it for you. If blah in blah. Okay. Yeah, that's right. I probably just didn't save it after I typed that. There we go. So what this is an easy way to just, it's like a for each loop in JavaScript, or yeah, JavaScript or C#. It just compares the value in basically what they entered in the form, which was the drop down, but so we're just checking if whatever movie they tried to cross off is in the list of movies. If it is, it's going to run this if statement, which will include building the rest of the page. If not, oh, and we want to return. Remember, these functions, the goal of them is to return a value, a string that can be sent to the user or the client computer so the browser can interpret it as HTML. So basically we're adding another branch. Can't think of a better way to word that. Okay. And I don't remember the redirect syntax off the top of my head, but luckily we have the internet. So, well, let me add this and then we'll talk about what happens. All right, Flask redirect. So we just look for an example of a redirect. I'll use search to find it faster. Okay. Let's see. We do need to make sure we include redirect in our import. Let's see what happens if we don't, and then we'll fix it. Just want to see the error. All right, so instead of returning a string, we can actually return a redirect to a path. Okay. So if we were able to find the movie, or if we were not able to find the movie, we want to return a redirect back to the home page. Let's see if this works. There we go. And make sure it's not mad at us. Run the server. It's working. Come back to the site. Refresh. And then we need a movie that's not in the list, which I don't think we can do. We'll have to hard code an incorrect option in here to test this out. Oh, it's also complaining about redirect. It says, I don't know where that is. So we need to import that from Flask as well. And the reason it didn't give us an error is because it only runs that when you go to that route. So it's important once your app gets larger that you test every route and every situation so that it doesn't crash the server. Okay, we're running. Oh, I need to hard code in a value here that won't be in the list. So all I have to do for that is just add an extra option to the form. And I can just add that before the select closes. So I'll just take this as a template. And then before the select closes, I'll add fake movie. All right. Okay. Refresh. And now we try to remove fake movie. Oh, give me 2 quotes. Oh well. And so it didn't bring us to the Crossoff page, but it brought us back to the home page. And so later, when crossing off a movie changes it in the database, this will prevent incorrect things from happening, but it will also provide us with a structure that we can use to pull from to fill this list. Okay. Next is doing the error message. And I just thought of another way to break this. So we can actually go, and anyone with the browser could do this, and come down to Crossoff, and then we want to go inside the select. I don't know why I left that label on there. All right. And we can just add our own new option right in the code, the HTML. All right. And then that'll be in there. So I can try to cross that off. And it won't allow that either. So that's because we're using server-side validation. And so the server never gets a chance to do something that it can't because we did a redirect. So in this route, it could actually do, this route has two different paths that it can go to, okay? So if you want to be able to see that easier, all you have to do is look at the returns, okay? And you always have to have a return that's visible to every path. So this if statement, the code in here will only run if this value is true, or if this expression returns true. And so if that happens, it'll run all the code starting here, and then when it gets to 74, it's actually done. Okay, once it hits a return statement in a function, it does not continue the code. Okay, so what happens if it's false? Right, none of this works, so we have to have a return that does something else. And so in this case, we wanted to go to back to the home page. Okay, and then I don't think they specified how they wanted us to get that error, so we'll have to figure that out. And then do some tab management here, so I don't get lost. Okay, so it says redirect the user back to the home page, and we will pass along a helpful error message as a query parameter. All right, earlier I showed you if I use the get, it puts a question mark with variables and values. You can kind of think of those as key value pairs. And move this down here. Okay. So all we have to do is send some information via the get method, including the error, and then on the home page, check whether that data was sent. If it is, then we can print out the error. All right, and then we'll talk about this when we get there. Okay, so how to pass that on as a query parameter? Well, we're actually just going to do it manually. So you can actually just put in the query parameters you want in the route. So we can put error equals that movie doesn't exist in your movie list. Okay. I'm putting double quotes, but you do not need to do that because it's just a there, so we'll just make it easier by not using a contraction. Okay. The movie does not exist in your movie list. Okay, so if we save that, we can check if it blew up anything. Looks like we're good. And now, if we go to our site, refresh, don't forget, and try to cross off the fake movie. Up in the address bar here, get out your magnifying glass. I wonder if I have a magnifying glass. Doesn't look like it that I can see. Oh. Assistive technologies. That's probably something we have to install. Oh well. The value up here is what we passed in, or I'm sorry, what we typed in when we're redirected to this route. which says that movie does not exist in your movie list, right? And now that it's there, we can grab that and print it out in our home page. All right, and so to get that value, from the address bar, we need to use Flask Get Query parameters from URL. Okay, it's request args get, and then you put the name of the key, it'll return the value. So we want to put that here. We want to get that string and store it in a variable. We'll call it error. Okay, that copied weird, so make sure you don't have spaces in here. And what is the key that we're looking for? I think we called it the same thing. So flick list, error is what we called it. So we're going to take the key. Let's call this something different. I don't want to confuse you guys. These names don't have to be the same. So we'll call this new error. That's the name of the string we're going to put it in. And then this will get the value so that we passed via the get method. Or I guess we just manually typed it in. Getting it out of the address bar. Okay, and then we can create, well, actually we can just put in here content equals new error. We'll put that before the page header for now. We can move it around later. Save that, make sure it's not broken. We're good. Now if we go back to the page normally, okay. Okay, it's asking me to, all right, told it to do something that it can't do, which I believe is here, because there is no value normally. This causes the server to crash because it tries to get something that doesn't exist. So we need to include an if statement to check for the value in that. Check what that returns. So if request.args.getError and new error equals that, and we only want to include this. Well, we can go ahead and declare it as an empty string, and then it'll change it if there is an error. So we'll set new error to empty string, so it just won't show up if there is no error. If there is, it'll print out the error. Make sure it's not mad. Oh, always forget my colon. Never forget your colon. It's very important. And then save. There we go. And now I'll have to start the server again. It's working. Refresh the page with the right address. Okay, try to remove the fake movie. And then there is our error. All right. And so on here, they mentioned in the directions, they mentioned what? Spaces aren't allowed in URLs, so we'll need to escape the error message. I think they're talking about using the HTML codes. And so if we do I mean, it seemed like it worked fine, so I'm not, we might have done it a better way or a way that doesn't really work. So let's change the error to ampersand NBSP semicolon. That's how you do the character code for a space in HTML. So instead of putting an actual space here, put this between each one. This isn't annoying, right? I wonder if that's what they're talking about. Let's see if it still works. So we saved it. That server's up. Let's refresh. We can refresh this one. Oh, well, let's refresh the new one actually. So Crossoff. Oh, I went back. Got to refresh. Okay. Now go to fake movie, cross it off, and that just broke it. So anyway, I think in the studio they'll be more specific. All right. So anyway, that's the walkthrough part. Let's see. Where we have where we want to put the due date for this next thing, because we have one one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Crap. Okay, I'm gonna count backwards this time, because this week of December 6th to 11th is the final week before finals. Oh, and we'll just use the last assignment as our final, so we can count the finals week too as extra time for you to work. So let's see. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 more classes. And we have 1, 2, 3 more assignments. So that'll give me more, that'll give us more than enough time to cover the rest of the information before user sign up is due. So I'm going to go ahead and map the rest of these out, since I have a good feeling about how much time it's going to take you to do these, and we have a time frame. So let's go ahead and fix that. So that way you guys know when you need to really focus, which is all the time. Okay. All right. So the final one will be due the final week of finals. And that one is not this. Oh no, blogs. That one will be blogs. So that is going to be due. And I need time to grade it too, so sorry about that. I think I have to have final grades in that Friday. So let's shoot for midnight of the 15th for that. That'll give me plenty of time to test it. If you do it all right and it works and you submit it, it's not very hard to grade. So that, you know, because I'm setting this as the due date, there's not going to be any turnaround for getting feedback before the course. I'll get you feedback, but it won't be before the course is over. So start early and get help so that you can get help from me, because it's going to be hard if you wait till midnight on the, you know, late on the 15th. I get very busy on finals week. All right. So that's good for that one. And then we have build a blog before that, which will go. So we have do. So maybe we'll allow 4 weeks for that, and then 3 and 3 for the other assignments. So how many do we have left? Oh yeah, 3. Right. Okay, that's why I set 3 sections. Okay, so we kind of get that. You kind of get an extra week on the last one, it looks like. Okay, so build a blog will be 3 weeks before, which would make it. You have this week, and this week. So 18th of November. By midnight for that one. And then the one that we're currently looking at is user sign up. Getting ready to do user sign up, which is somewhere right here. For some reason, very far from the other ones. Okay, and so today is the 29th, so we have 3 weeks, 1, 2, and 3. That will be October 20th. Should be able to get through everything by then. Oh, why am I setting these on the non-Thursdays? I got confused by final week, so let me adjust these. 22 by midnight for that one. And if you are still watching the video at this point, I'm not going to do anything else for class. I guess I should actually just end the stream, but let me fix these dates. I just really want you to be aware of these due dates, because these are fairly involved projects. All right. So that one has to be a Tuesday because it's finals week. And the other 2 are fine. Okay. Make sure I actually save it. Okay. It's really good when you're programming a web app and you have a button that gives you no feedback whatsoever when you click it. It's terrible. Very bad idea. Okay. So make sure you can see those. And I might throw some tiny, small things in there. All right, well, apparently build a blog did not keep its due date. So it's going to be, what was it, November? Now 3 weeks after the 22nd, so should be easy to figure out. Wait, which one is this? Build a blog? Oh, it should be our next one, isn't it? So 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, November 12th. There we go. All right, so we kind of have the major parts of the course outlined. You're always free to work ahead. A good idea to do is work ahead as far as you can, which you could do all of these just based on the material. But if you need help, you can ask me or wait for the videos to come out for each section and check that out. All right. Other than that, I think we're good. So have a good day, and I'll see you next Thursday.